Mushrooms can maximize your garden's potential by transforming underutilized areas into thriving food forests. Not only do they yield delicious fresh food, but they also require less maintenance compared to most crops. They don't need direct sunlight to grow, and in fact thrive in shady areas. They can also deliver consistent harvests year after year and improve soil structure, making them a sustainable addition to your garden.
These have been consistently fruiting for the last 6 to 8 years. This is a multi-story polyculture going on here. We got food coming out of the ground literally and food falling from the trees above our head.
There are many methods for growing mushrooms outside, which we've outlined in a few other videos on our channel. Today, I'm going to focus on the totem method. The totem method, also known as the pillar method, is an outdoor cultivation technique that involves vertically stacking large diameter wood rounds and smushing sawdust spawn between the layers like icing on a birthday cake. This method differs slightly from the traditional log method most commonly used for shiitake cultivation, which requires drilling and inoculating holes around the perimeter of a thinner, longer log. The aesthetic and practicality of totems are reason enough to give this method a shot, but it truly is the best log-based method for lion's mane and oyster mushroom production if you want larger and more consolidated flushes. Before we get outside and grow some mushrooms, let's talk about what you'll need to get started. First and foremost, sawdust spawn. And you'll also need a large yard waste bag, wood, and a shady area for your totems to live. One 5-pound bag of sawdust spawn should be enough to inoculate 3 or 4 10 to 12 inch diameter totems. You'll need wood that is 10 to 12 inches or more in diameter to cut into 3 pieces. 2 of those pieces will be around 6 to 18 inches tall, and one top piece will be around 2 inches tall. Keep in mind that when you're choosing which species of mushroom to grow, the type of wood you have should be compatible. The Spore team has put together a mushroom and wood compatibility chart, which you can find in the description below, along with links to all the materials we used in this video. Since fresh log sections aren't something that's easy to find in a store, you'll have to take a different tack. You can, of course, cut your own logs on your own property or other approved land, but unless you're using proper gear and technique, we recommend leaving it to the professionals. With that in mind, I'm going to meet up with my good friend Scott Guzman at Diggers Cooperative in Acton, Maine to find the right tree for this project. Let's do it.
We're out here in Acton, Maine at Diggers Co-op and scouting out in our backwoods to find a tree.
We wanted larger diameter wood. We're looking at hardwood trees, and we've got plenty of them out here. There's red oaks, there's beech, there's maple. All of those fit the bill. Harvesting for logs that you're gonna grow mushrooms off of, there's a couple other factors that you wanna think about. One of them is time of year, and because stuff is already budding, it's a little bit less ideal. That takes sugars, that takes energy from the wood to bud out like that. So it's technically not the best time now. Would have been better to do it a month ago when all of that energy was still locked up in the wood, like right when the sap starts flowing. But the second best time is always now. It's a beautiful day. These logs will definitely produce mushrooms.
When I'm harvesting a tree on my land, I tend to look to see what's growing next to it. I was always taught, don't train your eye to the trees you want to remove, train your eye to the trees you want to keep. And this is a really good example right here, where there's this large, healthy red oak right on the side of the trail and this damaged beech next to it. So if I were to harvest for firewood, I would select that beech that's got damage because it has a lower likelihood of survival.
Why is it so important to selectively cut your trees?
If we were to go through this forest and clear cut, we would disrupt not only the wildlife, but also the fungal biodiversity and the overall health of the forest as an intact ecosystem. And that's one of the biggest contributing factors to biodiversity decline is the loss of our intact forest ecosystems. So when I'm conducting forestry, I am very careful to cause minimum disruption. So a tree of this size, I'm gonna be very careful about how I fell this tree because the process of dropping it can cause a lot of damage to other trees. And I try to do most of everything by hand or with minimal equipment in the middle of winter when the ground is frozen to minimize the impact on the mycelial web underneath the soil. The move here is to make a notch like a bird's mouth that's on the side of the tree where we want it to drop, and then we'll make a back cut at a downward angle to the mouth of our opening, leaving a small hinge of wood for the tree to be able to hinge and go in the exact direction we want. If we cut it all the way through before it starts to fully drop, then it's more dangerous because we won't have that strip of wood to prevent it from going left or right. So most of the time when you cut a tree down, the bottom cut, your very first cut to fell the tree, is not square. So what we're doing now is squaring the bottom so that it will sit really well and level on the ground.
Look at these beautiful totems. Difference in size doesn't really matter, but you can see that they were stacked sequentially, and so the seams match up nice. We're gonna load these up and bring them back to the North Spore backyard. Again, this is red maple, and it was cut on the Guzman property by the one and only Scotty Guzman. It's a beautiful New England day, and I'm so ready to inoculate a couple totems. The first way, sort of our standard method, we're gonna smush sawdust spawn in between these log sections. The second method, we're gonna take this drill with this paddle bit. Doesn't have to be a specific size, but this is 1 1/4, and we're gonna drill holes in the sapwood to create pockets so that we can add more spawn, and then stick a paper bag on top. I've got everything I need right here. The most important ingredient, these bags of sawdust spawn. Starting with chestnut, it's a beautiful species. This spawn is really, really well colonized, and notice it is sawdust spawn, again, not grain spawn. Grain spawn is a little bit too attractive to pests. There are better uses for grain spawn. We really recommend sawdust for outdoor use. And then I also have a bag of lion's mane. These both should do really well in the totems that we prepared. Welcome to my totem spot. I chose this spot because it's nice and shady under this big conifer here, and conifers are great because they don't lose their leaves throughout the year. So this will stay nice and shady. It's nice and wet under here. We found a level spot and we put everything up on a pallet. I'm gonna inoculate my chestnut totem inside this plastic bag. I'm gonna start by laying the first piece of log in the bottom here. It's gonna be a little tricky because it's a bit windy today. And then I'm going to just pull it up over the top and tie it shut when I'm done. And that's it. We're ready to make our last totem. This one is gonna be lion's mane. The difference with this one is I'm gonna drill 5 shallow holes into each large log section, right in the face there, evenly spaced. And then I'm gonna stack them just as I did with these other methods in the paper bags, have another paper bag on top, a brick on top of that. So the only difference is that this one will have those holes, those pockets for spawn. Doing what I just did with this drill worked, but this drill was really stressed out by it. It got really hot. Yeah, we gotta let this thing chill out. We're gonna burn this motor out. You don't wanna burn out your motor. You don't wanna work harder than you need to. So consider using an impact drill, or even better, an angle grinder. If you've got an angle grinder and one of the North Spore adapters and 12mm bits that you use to inoculate shiitake logs, just use that for this. And it'll cut through like butter. I'm quite proud of my work, but now what? Well, I'm gonna let these sit for a couple months. I'm gonna pay attention to what the weather is doing, and if things are really dry, I'll spray down my bags. For the most part though, I will wait till that 2 months is up and then pull everything off, and hopefully we've achieved some colonization and these are robust enough at that point to make it on their own, continue colonizing if they need to, or hopefully give us mushrooms this year. Whenever you finish up a project, just like we did with the totems, you may have leftover spawn. And there's a lot of things you could do with that. Something like chestnut, you could put that in wood chips in a bed, you could still use it in logs, or you could just inoculate your compost pile. That's what we're gonna do today with both this and the lion's mane. To re-emphasize, it typically takes around 2 to 3 months before your totems will achieve full colonization. Once you reach this point, you'll want to remove the bags and expose your totems to their surrounding environment. The act of introducing your totems to the air will stimulate the mycelium and hopefully induce fruiting. Check back in a few months when our mushrooms begin to fruit. We'll dive into the colonization process, how to initiate fruiting, and some harvesting techniques. I'll also show you how to get subsequent flushes and maximize the production of your totems for years to come. Thanks for learning with us, friends. If you like this video, please subscribe to our channel or take a chainsaw to that like button for some more content. Spores truly, Lou.